everyone, I'm Margie Grass with the In the Garage podcast with CarParts.com. I am with Malik Sihota, and today we're talking a whole bunch of car repair stuff again, as well as replacement parts. So, welcome, Malik.
Hi, guys.
So I love your history, how it kind of expands from a bunch of different types of vehicles, a bunch of different, car subcultures. Sounds like you've been around the block. So let's just talk about kind of how you got into cars and what you're doing today.
So I guess I got started in the 90s when I was a kid. My dad was a car guy, and I would just see the car magazines and hear his stories about SCCA racing, and I just got into it. My first car was a Nissan, a Maxima, and I spent a whole ton of money, and my dad was super upset that I spent so much money on a car. And when I went racing, I thought he'd be proud of me, and he just told me I'm wasting money, so can't win. And from there, I got into other Nissans, and then I got into the classic BMWs. So I actually have my dad's first, or not his first car, but the car that he purchased in 1972, and I restored that. And so that's when I really got into the old BMWs. I'd always been into like the M3s and stuff like that, but then now it's like the 70s BMWs.
Yeah, well,
so,
I mean, those have so much character, and but they're modern enough, right?
When you have one that's well restored and you drive it on the freeway at 55, 65, 75,
pushing it.
I mean, they feel just as good as a modern car. They're not that loud. They ride smoothly. They just don't have Apple CarPlay. Yeah.
Which you could add that in if you want to. But you won't, right? Do you
would,
stay
no.
classic?
I stay classic.
Okay.
Like I don't need any of that.
Okay.
I just want the sound of the engine, and that's the only music I need.
But I love that history, and really from so did your dad teach you things, or was it kind of like he's bored with cars?
So my dad, when I was a kid, he would teach me some basic stuff. But when I got older, it was more like you need to focus on school and education and don't worry about cars. And so I like that. I think that was the best teaching I needed, because then I would go and learn myself, to go against my dad.
Motivation's there. Dads, we don't know what we're talking about half the time, but you try your best. And then, for me with my family, it was, speaking Spanish. That was like, my grandfather said, like, you're going to be American, so we're not teaching you how to speak Spanish. So, I was always like, no, you should have done that.
Yeah.
I would have enjoyed it. Yeah. But let's just talk about that, kind of the life lessons that you mentioned that you have kind of applied from you working on cars, and now you kind of transferred that into all aspects of your life.
Yeah. So I think when I was younger, I didn't realize the value of working on cars or learning, how to fix my own car. But now that I look back on it, I realize, you learn a lot from trying to problem solve. It's not as simple as a check engine light. It's not as simple as one problem. You just have to take a step back, look at a problem as a whole, and then diagnose it and go through it carefully. Otherwise, you're just firefighting. You're trying to fix one problem, but not really fixing the main issue or the root cause. And so, career-wise, I've done okay, and I'd say part of that is by taking a step back, looking at problems as a whole, and then figuring out what the root cause and figuring out everything that's connected to the problem that manifests. So I give credit to cars for teaching me that.
I believe that, because a lot of times with problem solving is you're using a BandAid rather than an actual solution.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, if your tires keep wearing out, the problem really isn't the tires wearing out. It's like, okay, well, did you check all your suspension? Did you check your alignment? And you go up the tree until you find the real problem, and then your car's tires last 40,000 miles or 10,000, however they're supposed to.
That's how you drive.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about Nissan, so I guess the drifting didn't help with that too much.
Yeah. So
No, I think that could apply to almost anything, business or your job or any of those different things. If you could, figure out why that problem happened in the first place, then now you have something you can fix.
And I think that's the lesson, is that problems are not singular. There's many, pieces of a problem, and if you don't solve all of them, you just you're gonna see that problem again. So
and it might make everything worse that you didn't find the solution in the first place. I think with modern cars, you could maybe find just by looking at the car and the CPU to see what the issue actually is, but with 70s BMWs maybe not so much.
But you'd be surprised, the check engine lights, you have to remember what the check engine light is. It's like an electric signal, right? So even with a modern car, you have to look at, okay, why is this check engine light on? Is it the oxygen sensor, or is it the catalytic converter, or is it an airflow meter that's bad? Mm-hmm. And even with modern cars, you still need that diagnosis to pick out the problem. And sometimes even with modern cars, there's no check engine light. I mean, I'm working on a car. I mean, it's not a new car. It's 20 years old, but there's no check engine lights, but you have a bunch of symptoms, and then you just start connecting the symptoms. Like, what symptom causes the car to run rough, but also causes the transmission to shift? Oh. So you have to look at the different car systems and how they work together, because, you'll have a car that runs rough and you'll be like, oh, it's an ignition problem, or maybe it's a fuel problem. But then, you add on that the transmission shifts, when in reaction to the running rough, and then it gets you into another world of problems, which I'm currently sitting in.
No, but you're doing it right. You could, for, a lot of people, it's like, well, that thing was clanking and now it's not clanking, so I fixed the problem.
Yeah.
But that's not fixing anything necessarily. Maybe you hit a bump and it got realigned into place or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So with the let's talk about the Nissans and kind of some of those swaps that you did. What would you say? What was your favorite project in that regard?
I think when I was younger, I would just do whatever I could afford, and then I would do whatever was more extreme. My favorite Nissan project right now is the car that runs, but besides that is I do have a S14 240SX, nice. And it has a VQ35 HR from a 2008 350Z. So basically, I took the typical 240SX chassis, and with the help of friends much smarter than me, figured out all the canvas wiring and the physical challenges of putting a larger, wider engine and a 6-speed manual transmission in an old 1995 240. So
wow. So when you do something like that, do you actually map out the entire project first, or is it more like, let's just get in there and get to work?
Well, if I was to do it again.
Lesson learned.
Lesson learned. But you try. I think getting into that, you try at the beginning, and then you realize, oh, I probably should have thought about this function or that function, and then you just get better. The next time I do something like that, I'll be thinking about a lot more than I did, this last time. So, definitely each time you do something, it's a learning experience.
Ah, I love that. Yeah. So even if you've done it a million times to other vehicles or other situations, it doesn't necessarily apply to the one you're doing currently.
Yeah. So I think if you look at it from the outside, it seems like, oh, cars are pretty much the same, but each car you do, or even each year you do, you'll find like individual, just headaches. There's no other way to say it, but why do you pick a 95 and not a 97? It's like, oh, you'll find the 95 has a lot less. It may have a different EGR system or something, and all that plays into is the swap going to be easy. Another project I have is a Nissan hardbody truck, and I'm trying to swap in a supercharged VG33ER, and there's a lot of things about what to pick on the donor vehicles, or what parts I need to transfer over, And, you know, maybe 10 years ago, I would just jump into it and then have a,
figure it out,
you
later.
know, have something holding a car spot, you know, parking spot, because I wouldn't figure it out. It would take a long time. But now I'm just trying to be more careful.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you know, just planning. And it makes everything more efficient.
Yeah.
Now, with those older cars or those projects that kind of stalled, how do you get back on the horse? Because I know that's tough.
It's tough. I would say the biggest thing is you stop making excuses. I'm very good at making excuses.
Everybody's good.
You know, I'm busy.
Because I have so much more important things to do.
But you know, it's like, why did you start this project? Like, what did you want to see? And you know, obviously you're not seeing it. It's like, do you still want to do those things with this car? And okay, if I want to do that, then I need to put time into it. I need to put time. I need to spend an afternoon just planning things out. What do I need to go back and do? But it's just taking away the excuses and then realizing that you still want to finish it. If your life has changed or your plans have changed, it's understandable. But if you want to take a supercharged Nissan truck out into the Mojave, you got to do it. You know, otherwise you're going to be dreaming about it.
Download the CarParts.com app and accelerate convenience with access to over 850,000 auto parts at your fingertips. We make it easier to find the parts you need, anytime, anywhere. Get it now on the Apple App Store and Google Play. J.C. Whitney is back. The original auto parts catalog, a garage staple and cultural cornerstone for over 100 years, is now a magazine. Whether you're a newcomer or a longtime gearhead, J.C. Whitney instills confidence by delivering expertly curated auto parts and a gateway to engaging community experiences, entertainment, resources, and inspiration. Learn more about the new J.C. Whitney at jcwhitney.com.
Oh, I love that. So you have the vision, and if you just reflect back on that vision, it kind of makes you, you know, find the project again, essentially.
Yeah. Just don't forget why you wanted to do it.
I love that. And you know, it sounds kind of ridiculous if you're like, well, you started it for that reason. Why would you forget that? And it's like, well, a lot of crap happens.
I mean, life happens. Life happens every day. So.
Well, and unlike a job, you know, you're like, well, you have a project, and so you got to get the project done. And so there's definitely a financial motivation to finish it on a certain time. But I think with your personal projects, it's up to you.
Yes. And that is a problem. It's so easy to put off your personal projects for somebody else's or to help somebody else. And I do that a lot. And I just need to remember why I want to do my own projects.
Yeah. Well, and I think people benefit from seeing you finish your projects too. You know, a lot of times, you know, you'll get motivated to finish yours if you're like, well, you know, Bob was complaining about that for years and here it is. It's done. He did it.
Yeah. No, that's true. And I have some friends which we've got our projects that have been sitting for a long time, and it's like we're both like, all right, we got to get you do yours and I'll do mine.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, I like that buddy system.
Yeah.
You know, you keep each other accountable, and maybe every time you see each other, you're like, "How's it going?"
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah.
oh, you
yeah.
jerk.
And how can I help?
How can I help? Yeah.
You know, so, sometimes it's easier to offer help to somebody else. So you find the right friends, they'll help you, and you help them, and you'll get through the struggles. You know.
I love that. Yeah. Well, it's accountability, but also just support. Because I think a lot of times you're like, well, I don't care about it. If I don't care about it, then who cares? And it's like, no, your friend don't care.
You definitely run into roadblocks, and it helps to have someone to sound off or talk to, hopefully with more experience than you.
Mm-hmm. Is that kind of the default kind of solution when you run into just a brick wall where you're like, there's no fixing this? Or
yes. I find friends and the internet are like just amazing. The amount of information and the number of intelligent people online it just constantly amazes me. And definitely just, if you get stuck, just do a few searches, and it may not even be your exact situation, but it'll definitely put you back probably in the right direction.
Yeah, just having that idea that you didn't have before, like, oh, I haven't tried that.
Yeah.
You know, and like you're saying, you know, sometimes you'll run into something that are like, oh yeah, I worked for NASA and built the spaceship or some crap. And now I'm helping you fix your Nissan. That's not uncommon.
So, I mean, that is one of the coolest things about the car community is, I started and, there's just the variety of people. I mean, I have friends who work down the street for some of the defense companies, and we all started in the same place, working on an old Nissan, trying to make it cooler when it probably wasn't that cool, but, and just the different paths in life that, we all got from the same place, and they are extremely intelligent, and they are extremely resourceful and helpful.
Yeah, well, I think that the helpful side is always, I think it kind of shocks people sometimes because you're like, wow, you're so incredible and you've done all these things and you're just going to give me advice for free. That's shocking a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I think it's the community. I think, we tend to recognize like other people's projects as like, hey, I had my project and I really wish somebody helped me through this. And so it's kind of it's just a good group of people. I mean, the car community, everyone that I've been a part of, whether it's classic cars or luxury VIP cars or drift cars or, track, they're all supportive. Each group sometimes has their little like thing that you're like, well, I'm not going to talk about this with these guys.
I'm going to get my head bit off.
yeah, but overall, the communities are great, and they're just great people.
No, and that's what I found too. And it seems like everyone does have that culture, but the underlying thing is, it's a hobby. You find it really interesting. At the end of it, if you succeed, you get something cool to drive around.
Yeah, it's pretty rewarding, but sometimes it doesn't feel like it's going to be. But I mean, every project that I've completed, I feel, has been it's just really refreshing and just feels good.
Yeah. No, and I think, and again, like your point on how it's kind of reflected in life is, nothing feels better than finishing something that was really, really hard or time consuming or ran into a bunch of challenges. There's really good lessons to learn in there.
Yeah.
So in terms of those project cars, the ones you do finish, what do you typically do with them? Do you end up selling them or trading them or?
I have a lot of cars.
You keep them forever?
I sometimes have a hard time letting them go when I know the reason why I finished a project. But sometimes I sell them. Sometimes you just finish and you move on. There's something else you want to do. But I tend to keep a lot of cars, about 10. Don't tell my dad. Hopefully he doesn't see this.
Doesn't see the parking lot.
It's just, do I like camping? Do I like overlanding? Yes, I do. And I'm just going to keep doing it. So I'm going to keep this car. Some people are like, oh, well, you just need one car. And I'm like, well, no. Cause I want to be able to, drive a 70s car on the weekend up PCH, but I don't want to drive that car every day, to work. And I'm just like maybe really picky, I feel like there's the perfect car for me for like 10 different situations.
I like that a lot. Yeah, it's a different tool for a different, problem.
Yeah.
No, love that. Let's talk about overlanding because that seems to be a kind of departure from everything else that, the 70s BMWs and the drifters and then overlanding. What got you into that?
So, I think there's something just really peaceful about camping in general. And I wouldn't say I'm not a people person, but there's plenty of times that I just want to be away. And I think with traditional camping, you go to a campsite and there's a bunch of other people, they're listening to music, and it's just like I travel 500 miles to have bad neighbors,
outside that you can't get away from.
Yeah. So with overlanding, it's like I can go to places that there's nobody there. I can climb a mountain and just look, 180, 260, maybe 360 degrees and just be like, I'm the only person out here. And it's really peaceful when you do that. And it's great to be able to drive your own vehicle, your own truck, and just experience it. I don't do the super hardcore, I don't have like the rooftop tents and stuff like that. I try to keep it simple and minimalist. I'm a guy used to very uncomfortable things, smashing knuckles and dropping things on my feet. So I can handle like sleeping in the back of a truck. or tents. You know, it's part of the experience, you know?
I love that. No, I think you just sold me on overlanding, because I'm like, that sounds incredible.
I mean, on the West Coast, I think we are just uniquely blessed with so much, you know, federal land, you know, and as long as we take care of that land, keep it clean, and don't ruin it, you know, the land is ours to use and enjoy. And, you know, I think it's not just the West Coast, but I think uniquely West Coast that we have so much, and you can really get away and just, you know, enjoy yourself.
Well, I completely agree with that. I live in Texas now, and so, you know, we have the hill country.
Yeah.
But the hill country is like 100-foot tall hills. Like, this is not hills. Like, we had hills in Southern California.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could go anywhere, and even, you know, Texas, there's tons to see too, and tons of trails and all that kind of stuff. But if you don't, you know, have any ability to get out to those locations, then you're never really going to experience them. And like you said, I actually grew up going to Leo Carrillo and El Capitan.
Yeah.
And that was like our annual, you know, summer trip. But you're surrounded by other people all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful, and I mean, plenty of the people. I mean, the people are wonderful. I was out at like Jalama Beach or Halama Beach, and I mean, I love it, but sometimes I just want to be away, and that's what really overlanding gives you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be super dangerous or crazy.
No. I think the whole idea is not to push yourself or push the vehicle to the point where you don't know if it's going to make it. Because you have you know, if I'm going to do like off-roading or rock crawling, I definitely want to go in a group, and I definitely want to be not that far away
from help.
You know, I bring tools, but, you know, definitely,
you
know, you can ruin your weekend. Yeah.
No, and I think, we talked to Jerome, one of our other workers here at CarParts, and he was saying, you don't want to get stuck somewhere and have to, go into town, find the part. He did say that was part of the adventure, though, and solving the problem. And then you made it.
I think definitely being prepared is nice. I just set little rules, like, you know, I'm gonna try the trail in 2-wheel drive. If I get stuck in 2-wheel drive, I'll use 4-wheel drive, and I'll use 4-low. You know, just kind of don't get yourself into something that you're just done. Like, you know, obviously, you know, you've got ramps and stuff if you need it, and you know, I actually don't have a winch, but you know, somebody has a winch if you're going out. You know, there's a lot of things to help you out, but just don't dive head first into something that you don't know you're going to get out of. That's and again, that's kind of like with the car projects too. You know, I was joking about, don't start working on your car when your other car is, you know, stuck behind it, because if you get stuck, you're really stuck. So, you know, always plan, you know, a way out, you know.
No, it makes sense.
Plan B.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, so the whole theme of this has really been like how what you do actually applies to life, and that's true too. You know, you could push it, but have a way out or a plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Love that. So I know you used to work at CarParts.com, but now you're with TYE?
TYC, yeah.
C. I was like,
so I left a lot of wonderful people at CarParts for a great opportunity as the vice president of product at TYC. Oh, wow. And I think what's different about TYC is we manufacture a lot of parts, and there's always just kind of a little bit more excitement when you're into, you know, manufacturing and developing parts. But you know, the other reason why I chose TYC is it has a kind of a quality mindset. It's a quality mindset where, you know, we want to bring quality parts to the market. And, you know, for someone who works on cars, like I appreciate that. You know, when I buy a part, I want it to fit right. I don't want fitment issues. I don't want performance issues. And, you know, I like it when they think of the installer. So, you know, do you have to transfer a bunch of rusty screws from a 10-year-old part to a new one, or does it already come with it? And you know, that's kind of what I like about TYC, and that's what I go into work every day, like trying to think about who's actually putting the part on the car and providing them the best part I can.
I love that. Yeah, really customer minded, where you're thinking about that kind of stuff. One, you could just think about profits and be like, wow, that's going to cost an extra 50 cents to put the screws in. Plus shipping.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's a vicious world, but at the end of the day, like, you make somebody's life easier, they'll be loyal. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And actually, this whole talk, I think applying all these lessons that are really practical for working on cars and enjoying your hobbies also apply to every other aspect of life. So,
yeah,
cars.
Yeah, it's cars have taught me so much and given me such a wide variety of friends and experiences, and I definitely not planning on leaving this space or this community anytime soon.
Wow, it's going to be needed for a very long time. So really happy that you're there and you're developing products that people like and make their lives easier because of how you guys build them. And we sell them here at CarParts.com. So keep doing what you're doing.
Perfect.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
That was a pleasure.
All right. And thank you guys for listening. If you want to hear more, go and check out the In the Garage podcast at CarParts.com.